Mission, you are live.
Woo! Oh my goodness. Okay, so we all know I'm like disastrous with technology, so I enlisted the help of my husband, and after like 5,000 Google double digit authentications, I think we're finally live. Let's hope so. Anyway, I just want to say thank you to everyone who tuned into this last minute live. It means a lot to me. So, all 15 of you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I printed out a bunch of questions that I've gotten recently on some of the lives that I've done, some of the last videos I've posted, and I just wanted to give everyone an update on what's going on with the market, what you should be doing with your home loans right now, because the last serious week of home loans have made me want to like quit my day job, right? So let's get into some of these questions. And I do just want to shout out a couple of people. Linda, thank you so much for tuning in. You are such a support. Thank you so much. Hi, Amanda. Hi, Rod. Hi, Jen. Aaron, nice to see you. Jesus, you crack me up. So I'm super, super happy you guys are joining me. So, all right, so let's get in for this Q&A. Okay, so the first question I got was from One Bright Light, and it was, please, 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 do you think will rates go up over the next 3 weeks, or will they come back down a little? I'm closing in March and my rate isn't locked in. Your advice would be very much appreciated. So the thing with giving lock advice right now is that it's really tricky, and you really want to work with some. There is typically a price improvement when you shorten the lock period to 15 days, and the market has improved significantly Friday, Monday, Tuesday. Today was a little bit on the sideways, so it was flat. But you may want to look into a 15-day lock if it's within your time period. So definitely just consider that. So if you want to reach out to me directly on your lock, I can give you better advice. All right, so the next question comes from New Love One. Says, I'm having issues with first-time homebuyers getting cold feet after I accept their offer. What's up with that? So I think a lot of that really has to do with the fact that most people in this environment are just trying to get bids accepted. And so what they're doing is they're seeing and writing offers on properties that they haven't really done their due diligence on. So they might be writing a property that they might have just driven by or walked in for 5 minutes, and they just feel that urgency to write an offer. What you really want to do when you're considering offers is really see how many times have the people, written or seen your property, and what have they written into your contract to solidify that offer? Like, what contingencies are they waiving? What guarantees are they giving your seller? So that's what I would say, especially to first-time homebuyers. Julie Silver, can you get a home loan in a different state than you currently live, but you want to transfer to? Would it be easier to move? Oh, and then move again once in a year. So hypothetically, this situation happens a lot for me, where like somebody is going to move in 6 months but hasn't gotten a job in the state that they're moving in. So typically what you would do is you would buy that as an investment property, or maybe a secondary residence if you plan on vacationing there before you move. So those are a couple of ways that you can get around the occupancy issue. Otherwise, you will have to wait till you actually secure employment, or you can get your employer to verify that you can work remotely, which is a real thing nowadays in COVID. All right, next one was from Kenneth Russell. Is it true the most important thing a first-time homebuyer looks at is the neighborhood that they choose to live in? So this is a tricky question, and honestly, we should ask it again on Saturday to Javier, because for me, I deal with a lot in financing, and I can tell you that the number one concerns of first-time homebuyers are really their monthly payment, and then secondary is how much cash out of pocket will they have to pay at closing. So those are the things that matter most to me. I'm not 100% sure on the neighborhood. Really, I think it has to do a lot more with budget when it comes to first-time homebuyers, but Javier would be a better resource for that. Next question comes from Beautiful One. I'm looking in Douglasville, Georgia, and we ended up receiving a low appraisal, $30,000 difference. The home went back on the market for 2 days in January and recently closed $10,000 above asking price with some closing costs. Have you ever seen this occur in a predominantly Hispanic? So here's the thing. We don't really gather information on neighborhoods according to ethnicity and race. I'm pretty positive that's a fair housing violation. But I will tell you that an appraisal coming in low and then later on selling at a higher price is because an appraisal is an opinion of value, and depending on the person inspecting your property and what comparables they're using for the valuation, it can vary quite a bit. And it is also not uncommon in this type of marketplace for people to be bidding well over asking price, and then guaranteeing the difference between the appraisal and what they've offered in an appraisal contingency waiver or an appraisal guarantee. So I think that's more the reason why that sold and yours did not. But also, I'm not privy to that contract, so I can't tell you the exact deets. All right, so let's go to the chat and see if I have any good questions here. Okay, so let's see. Oh, so it looks like the stream was frozen, but it looks good now. You guys let me know if it's still frozen in the comments below. Okay. So Rod Knock just said, just bought a second house, first on my own. Got any smart money tips for me? Well, my smart money tips is that if it's really a secondary property, you might want to consider what it would look like to maybe Airbnb it a couple months out of the year so that you can get some additional streams of income in. That's always something that I recommend to people. We just got to be scrappy, especially in this economy. All right, next question. Let's see. Some of these usernames are really difficult to read, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip this one. But it says, as always, great video, which, by the way, thank you. It says, I have a closure coming up at the end of April. Again, do you think I should lock or wait to lock in at today's rate? I think if you're more than 30 days out, I would float until you're within a 30-day period, unless the market starts to swiftly change. If you follow me on Instagram, I give constant market updates, especially when rates are moving. So you'll want to pay attention to that. And again, work with somebody who's answering questions and reviewing the market on a daily basis, and we'll give you daily updates. All right, so let's see. Okay, question. I'm in the beginning stages of a new build. It's about 9 months out. Can I lock in my rate? The mortgage does allow a 270-day lock, but there is a huge penalty. So typically the longer the rate, the higher the cost. So usually we tell people that a rate lock, the maximum is about 60 days, except when you're in a new build period. I mean, honestly, the longer you lock, the higher the rate cost. And if you're going to do a 270-day lock, you're going to pay for it. So I believe personally that the Fed is controlling where interest rates stay. And even though we had a temporary bump up, we've seen a very quick correction. And I do think that interest rates are going to be relatively low, like low 3% throughout the rest of the year. So what I'm going to recommend is that you continue to float and then really stay engaged with your loan officer. I just don't know that it makes sense to pay that much of a cost up front to lock in. You'll end up regretting it, is what I mostly see in my experience. Okay, so let's see if we got some other questions. Okay, so LuxCL said, hi Lizzie, can you use the cash value from whole life insurance as cash reserve? So it depends on whether or not they allow you to withdraw it. If they do, then yes, you can use it as reserves, and some people even use it as down payment funds. All right, Mr. Chris, tips for sole proprietors. I'm in the beginning stages of a mortgage approval, and I hear that that being a sole proprietor makes it tougher. So whenever you're self-employed, it definitely makes it tougher to qualify. There's a lot more hoops that you have to jump. Write this down. You will need the most recent 2 years of personal and business tax returns. And if you haven't filed for 2020 yet, you're going to need a year-to-date profit and loss in addition to a 2020 profit and loss and the last 3 months of business bank statements supporting the deposits on your P&L. So I will tell you that these additional hoops frustrate buyers. So if you're self-employed, you should really start the home buying process as soon as possible, because you really want to engage a loan officer, one, to make sure that you're not going to have any pre-qualification issues, and then two, a lot of times self-employed people write off everything that they can in income, and sometimes it prevents you from actually qualifying from the amount that you'd want to. And so we really have to engage a loan officer and your tax preparer to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success with the amount of, approval that you'd like to get. So if you write everything off and you have minimal income, it will impact your pre-approval. All right, so let's see here. Okay, first-time homebuyer looking to use USDA in North Carolina. I'm a flight attendant who's been on leave of absence since April. I'm going to start a new job. Should I wait to apply? So, unfortunately, if you've been out of work since April of last year, you're going to have to be back on your job for a minimum of 6 months before we're able to use the income to qualify you. In general, though, I wouldn't say that that's bad financial advice. Honestly, you want the most stable income possible when entering into a large financial decision. So, honestly, I think that even though you're prevented from qualifying, I think this is actually probably the best bet for you. Now, my next question, though, is are you going to be working in as a flight attendant again? Because flight attendants get paid on a variety of different types of pay, depending on the flights that they take, the number of hours that they work, and so they can be tricky to qualify. So if you are, you may have to wait another year before you're eligible to maximize your income qualification. All right, so Amanda Strain says, I'm getting a USDA loan. Appraisal came in good, but the seller needs to paint and install carbon monoxide detectors. It's been really cold here. With the delay in closing, not closing until April 5th. I don't think so. I mean, typically what happens is that they'll send an appraiser out to just inspect that all of the repairs have been made. And normally that takes I would say a week or less. So it shouldn't, but it really just depends on when the seller actually makes the repairs. I've had appraisers wait until the day before closing to make a repair, and then in that case, it can delay. So you really just want to make sure that your real estate agent is on top of them and make sure that they do the repairs right away so you can get that reinspection back ASAP. Okay, and then Linda Fernandez says, have you seen VA loans accept? Yes. Oh, Linda, here's how you get a VA home loan accepted in this market. Okay, so a lot of times people think that government financing really makes your offer less attractive, but in the case of VA loans, what I love is that typically people aren't putting down a down payment. So if there was ever a situation where somebody had additional funds to pay over a short appraisal or the difference between, asking price and maybe over asking price, it's on a VA loan situation. The other thing about a VA home loan is that they notify you if the appraisal is not going to come in at value. It's called Tidewater. And the agents have an opportunity to submit all of the necessary information like comps, upgrades, anything that they know that's special about the property, right, to the appraiser to help with the valuation. They also consider time adjustments. So what's happening in the market today and does that impact value? It's honestly one of the most competitive types of loans in this marketplace because of, everything that's going on with home values. So if you're working with the right realtor and the right loan officer, they will help you sell this, and a VA loan should not be a problem. You can obviously tell I'm passionate about that. Okay, so Erin, you're taking a regular office job. Okay, regular 9 to 5 is perfect. Now, again, it would just be 6 months in that line of work. So it sounds like you're going to be okay. And guys, Skylar Irvine's my husband, in case you guys were wondering who the super fan is. I'm glad I'm your new favorite show. He's also right there helping me with all this tech stuff. Okay. All right, so let's see here. So we asked about the law questions. Okay, what payment do I feel the majority of first-time home buyers can handle? For me, most people, it seems, get overextended with $1,500 to $1,700 per month, including taxes and insurance. So here's what I will say. So the average income in America is somewhere around $62,000 to $68,000, and people's net income is somewhere 65 to 75% of that, depending on their dependents, their write-offs, things of that nature. So I'm going to say again, whatever your equation is, it should be whatever your net take-home income is. If you multiply that by 0.7, you'll get 70%, which should be your lifestyle budget, and 30 to 50% of that lifestyle budget should be a housing payment. Anything more than that puts you in a position to be house poor, and you'll have to make other sacrifices in terms of lifestyle, or you'll get a roommate, or you'll figure out other ways of bringing in income. But it is something that I recommend to most people, is just trying to keep that lifestyle budget really in check, and then 30 to 50% of that lifestyle budget. Okay, so any changes with FHA process due to the recent COVID legislation? Not so much with FHA financing, truthfully, but I will say that self-employment is the one area where all loans have really just, kind of put their foot down. So the biggest change, really, honestly, is that we just have to over document things that we wouldn't necessarily have to explain. So, like any discrepancies with pay, any time off, any calculations for overtime, whether it looks like it's decreasing, or bonus where it looks like we're decreasing, we have to over justify why we're using the income to qualify. So I don't know that anything has changed, but I will say that underwriting has gotten more conservative, just kind of across the board. Oh, one bright light. I answered your question at the very beginning. I hope you rewind and watch this. Okay, so let's see. Okay, and our appraiser's short supply. My lender has had a hard time finding one that would take the job. Found one and charged $1,100. It's a property on 22 acres. Could that have been the reason? So yes, yes, and yes. So okay, so a couple of things. If you don't have an appraisal yet, I'm going to amend my answer to the previous statement. You need to find out how long it's going to take for them to get that appraisal back, because that'll impact when you should lock in your loan. But essentially, whenever your property is outside of the norm, so let's say on multiple acres, right, where maybe that isn't consistent with other properties in your area, they're going to have to find an appraiser that specializes in those types of properties. And anytime you need somebody that specializes in a market where appraisals are in high demand, it is going to be difficult. I mean, appraisals right now in Arizona are taking anywhere between 10 to 15 business days to come back. And so it is not uncommon for us to pay $1,000, $1,200 to get an appraisal in a reasonable time, especially if somebody has waived a contingency. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, so then we have Lorraine Callie. Would I recommend we pay off credit card debt with tax income or refund, or save it, hopefully buy a home this year? It really just depends on your actual overall budget. I don't know what you're in more need of, but typically what I tell people is if your lifestyle budget fits within the 70% and you don't have rainy day funds, so you don't have 6 months of reserves saved, I would say that money needs to go into savings. If you have plenty of savings, but you're paying high interest credit card debt, or high interest debt of any kind, even on student loans, I would recommend you pay off debt. Now, that being said, right, if you have a good budget, a good rainy day fund, but maybe you don't have enough money saved for down payment, I would consider saving that for your down payment. So it's really, I really need more details on your financial situation to give you a proper answer on that. Okay, so Alexander Blair says, hey Lizzie, I have a question, but a tech thing. If you're using OBS, you need to double your mic. You're only coming in left channel. Okay, I guess they're working on it. Thanks, Alexander. Sorry about that. Thank you. You're awesome. Guys, I am so surprised that I have so many people joining me for a live that I just announced today. You guys are kick-ass. Can I just tell you? It makes me so happy. Okay, so then we have Grayman says, my builder is offering $7,500 for design, $5,000 towards closing if I use their lender. What things should I be looking out for when using a builder's lender? At what point is the deal not worth it? So here's the thing. You really want to get a full loan comparison and compare it to somebody that you got pre-qualified through, like a recommendation from your realtor. So this is a real life scenario that I just got today. I had somebody, and they actually applied with a national lender. And when I saw their loan estimate, what was crazy is how they listed off the fees. So they had an interest rate that was like 2.375. Mine was 2.75. But then his costs were like $8,000 in costs for just the loan alone. And when you really looked at the numbers, right, when we're comparing apples to apples, there was some lender credit that was covering $5,000 from the builder. after all of the credits were said and done, after it was like seriously $6,000 more expensive, and it didn't pencil out, even though the interest rate was almost 0.5% lower than what I was offering. So you just really, really have to look at that side-by-side comparison, because they might offer you $12,000 in credits and then have $22,000 in costs. It really, you won't know that without actually looking at it and like outlining it. Okay, so let's see here. I'm trying to keep up with like both these questions that I brought, because I literally thought no one was gonna come, and then your questions online. Okay, so let's see here. Our overlay is still a major factor due to COVID for FHA and USDA. So yes, it depends on the type of lender that you're going with. What I typically recommend to people is that they go on and directly through a mortgage banker or a mortgage lender that deals with FHA or that deals with like regular conventional. Is everything okay? Can they hear me? Can you guys hear me? It looks like the camera just went down. Okay. So overlays are only a thing for lenders that are not dealing directly with the agency. So FHA, conventional, VA. So unfortunately, if like you're dealing with somebody that has to deal with a third party, they might have additional guidelines because who they sell to and their warehouse lines are restricted. You guys are awesome. Sorry my live is so riddled with like tech issues. This is what happens when you get an old person to try to do a live. Okay, so let's see here. What's my preferred DPA program in Arizona? I will say that they're both pretty the same. So Home in 5 and Home Plus, they seem to be pretty identical. I will say that I think Home in 5 has typically lower interest rates than Home Plus, but Home Plus is a little bit more flexible on the guidelines. So I might just consider that. Okay. All right. Do I think it's better to put $9,000 down on a $400 monthly payment or $9K down extra payment? So, okay. Says, you say it's only $5K. Okay. So I will tell you that down payment makes minimal difference to your actual total monthly payment. So if your goal is to pay the house off quicker, I'm going to give you a pro tip that you probably didn't know of. And honestly, all of you guys should write this down. So if you have extra money, as opposed to putting additional money for your down payment, unless you're doing, buying out mortgage insurance, etc., you can apply that additional payment to the principal balance on your first mortgage payment, right? So you're going to pay a regular mortgage payment plus a principal reduction payment. You will knock off, like on average, 7 years of your loan term, right? Which would save you literally thousands of dollars. So that's my best tip advice for what to do with extra money. Okay, so let's see. Thanks, guys, for being so supportive. Okay, so Monique says, I bought a house in October. Sadly, haven't been able to move in because it has been deemed... I don't know what that means. I'm not sure who I should hold accountable. Can you retype that? I'm not sure what you mean by saying that. So is it not livable? I don't know how you would have closed on it. Did you get a home loan? Does it cost more to use a mortgage broker versus a direct lender or bank? So in my experience, mortgage bankers have I think they're cheaper in terms of rates. Sometimes they have more cost, but oftentimes they can't pull through in the time frame that people need. So a lot of people use United Wholesale Mortgage, and so it's like one company that most people are brokering to because they typically pay the highest rebates. So it's almost like the same thing as going through a direct bank, except they have additional overlays and additional time frames for turnaround times. So I really honestly think you have to get a loan comparison from the both. Okay. So advice for younger buyers. Son is 20, wants to buy a small acreage in Nebraska or Iowa. No money saved yet, but is planning for $15,000 in a year. Better to buy land with a home already built on it? Yes. So unless you're going to do a manufactured home, and then, which I would say there's a lot of other details in this, but typically when you buy land and you're going to construct a property on top of it, there's a lot of things that go into it. Typically, you have to build 3 times whatever the land is worth, and then your construction loan requires 20 to 30%. So it is way more difficult for a first-time buyer. So I definitely would recommend him buying a house that's already constructed or a home that's already affixed to land. Okay. Let's see. How do rising interest rates affect my home buying power? So 1% increase in interest rate on average impacts somebody's purchasing power about $33,000. So let's see. New home build price has gone up 15% from when you signed a purchase contract. Does that help bring down your PMI? Okay, Jose, it does not, because you're locked in at your purchase price. But fun fact, 6 months after you close, you can do a refinance and try to remove that. If it doesn't make sense to do a refinance, because let's say interest rates aren't there, if you pay mortgage insurance for 2 years on a conventional loan and you have 25% equity, you can request to have the mortgage insurance removed. So I hope that helps answer your question. So it's either a refinance or 2 years. And if you're doing FHA, unfortunately, you pay mortgage insurance for the life of the loan. Okay. Oh, Alexander, I might reach out to you. Thank you so much for all the tech advice. You're really awesome. Okay. So Mr. Chris, hypothetical, grandmother can't stay in the home anymore and is going to stay with the daughter. Thinking about allowing us to take over the mortgage. Is the process for buying different than assuming the loan? So assumptions only work on FHA loans or on VA loans so long as it's veteran to veteran. So typically if you're just going to take over the loan, you can technically deed the property and then do like a seller carryback, but there might be some implications on her home loan for that. So it might not make a lot of sense, or you might just end up being added to the deed and then refinancing later on. And then taking cash out to pay her back, if that makes sense for her. But that's really like what I would consider doing. Okay, they're saying we just need to boost the audio 10%. Are you reading these comments too? Okay. Okay. It says, I kind of like left channel only. I honestly don't even know what that means. Okay. Says, hey, Lizzie, me and my wife have $3,000 saved. We're thinking of either renting or buying a manufactured home around $90,000 or lower in the Mesa area. What do you think? I think manufactured homes are really great. There's lots of really great ones in Mesa. The thing that you have to consider, though, is that you want to make sure that they're not a park model, so it has to be on its own lot, affixed to the property, and newer than 1976. So there are some additional costs with buying a manufactured home, like sometimes you have to get a septic inspection, and sometimes you have to get an engineer cert. So those will typically cost you an additional $1,000 or so. So just things to consider. But they're way, way, way more affordable than condos and single-family residences in this market. Okay, so if you have a conventional loan and make extra principal payments, I can't have the PMI removed before 2 years, even if it's below. Oh, no, absolutely. Once you get to 80% of your purchase price, you can absolutely request that the mortgage insurance be removed. It does not fall off until you have, believe it or not, 22% equity. So the second that you get to 80%, you will want to call in. The reason I answered that question the other way is because we were talking about appreciation and equity versus like principal reduction payments, but that's a really good clarification. Hi, Chupadita. Nice to see you on this live. It's great. Okay. Ooh, guys, we got to 52. I feel so popular. Okay, so I'm going to answer some more of these questions. So it says, let's see. Should we buy our primary residence first or an investment property? From your experience, what are the pros and cons of doing one over the other? Hope this makes sense. So, in my personal experience, I think buying a primary residence makes the most sense. And the reason for that is because you have to live somewhere and there's going to be a cost of your housing unless you're living for free with family. But for the most part, most people will need somewhere to live, and you can buy a primary residence with minimum down. So, 3 to 5%. You get a really aggressive interest rate. Right now, it's somewhere in, the low threes. Which is historically amazing, just so you guys know. And on an investment property, you typically have to put down 20%. You have to have a lot more reserves, and you have to have, there are more restrictions with debt to income ratio, and you get a higher interest rate. So what I would recommend is buying a principal residence, and then if it's not your like forever home, plan on upgrading it and then buying another like primary residence, and you don't have to change the financing. It's still the same great rate. You now just rent out the property. So that's my recommendation on that. Okay, so Chupadita says, "Hey Lizzie, I plan on doing 10% down payment. Do you recommend doing 5 and giving the other 5% on the first principal payment only?" Okay, so I don't know the math on this per se, but if you give me your purchase price, what I can do is on Saturday's live, I'll give you the answer to that. So what makes this difficult is that you have mortgage insurance that you'll pay on a monthly basis in addition to the difference of like knocking off mortgage years. So we really want to put this through an amortization schedule so I could give you like a really good one. And then, oh, by the way, guys, I should have an amortization calculator on my website, I think by the end of the month. So that way you can like work out all of these hypotheticals on your own. Okay, cool. So I'll work out the math on this, honey, and then can you give me your credit score too and your debt to income ratio if you have it? And then we'll go over this on Saturday's live. Okay, cool. All right, so next question is, will a loan officer give me a loan estimate before I make an offer on a house? If so, will I just tell him what amount I plan to buy, or does the house price not affect the loan cost estimate? So I think you should always request a loan estimate prior to writing an offer on a house. How else will you know what to budget, what to anticipate? Typically what I do in my office is we give people a max qualification, and then we go down in increments to where they feel comfortable making monthly payments at. And then we send fee estimates for both, so that way they can anticipate, what closing costs are. Now, I will say there isn't a gigantic difference between, housing prices, but some costs are a percentage of your loan amount, so you definitely will want to budget for that. And any person who isn't willing to give you a loan estimate upfront probably isn't worth working with. Okay. Oh, yay. Oh, the orange background is my husband's idea. It's his favorite color. I'm glad you guys like it. This is not yellow. This is orange. But I love that you... Wait, is it... Well, so he says it's yellow. This is supposed to be my favorite color. Okay. So it says, with the pandemic, how many months cash reserves do you need on a conventional loan? It depends on the occupancy, but I would say anywhere between 2 and 6 months. All right. And then if you're buying an investment property, it depends on the type of financing. So on a Fannie Mae loan, it's 2% of all of the unpaid balances. On a Freddie Mac loan, it depends on the number of houses, and then they give you a number of months. So you will have to talk to a loan officer more in-depthly about that one. Okay. So let's say, so my lender says if I have leftover credits, I can apply it 1 year of HOA or buy down the interest rate. We're thinking interest rate since it's not out of our pockets. So essentially what they're talking about is in some cases you negotiate closing costs, or let's say they're repair credit costs that can go towards expenses for your home loan. We can only give you a credit for all of the costs that are actually associated with your home loan. So sometimes there's leftover credit that we have to figure out ways to use. An interest rate buy down is a more permanent impact on your actual monthly payment itself. But an HOA can impact your overall budget per month. I know one of our clients elected to pay 6 months worth of HOA upfront because the HOA was $700. That obviously had more of an impact than buying down the overall interest rate to their monthly expenses. So it's really going to be what makes the most sense for your monthly budget. Yeah, so everyone is saying that it looks orange. I think it just looks orange on this live. When I looked back, it actually looks more yellow, I promise. Okay. So let's see. Um I bought a house in Phoenix in 2019, FHA at 5%. I want to refinance into a conventional loan and take out cash to do a bathroom addition. Let's see. I currently work part-time and go to school full-time. Do I wait until I graduate to refinance? I'll be putting my spouse on the loan as well. He's a teacher. Will my income at this moment play a role? We plan to stay here 7 to 10 years. So this one is a really hard question to answer because I don't know what the overall debt to income ratio is and how much the spouse makes. But I definitely would get a quote to refinance probably sooner than later just because of, what's going on in interest rates, because you'll want to be prepared for when to lock in. Like, I haven't told people to lock in right away because I think the market is still correcting itself, but you want to be in a position to lock in as soon as you can. So I would definitely get an estimate for this. And if you're switching from conventional or FHA to conventional, they're a lot more lenient on your student loan debt. So we can use income-based repayment plans on a conventional loan, whereas an FHA loan, you have to use 1%. So I definitely think it makes sense to do that. And you'll probably knock off your mortgage insurance if you bought in 2019. So I think that's a really wise decision. You guys are amazing. Okay, so people want updates for second home buyers. So I will tell you that we have tons of second home buyers here in Arizona. It's a great place to live, primarily because of the weather in the winter months. Second home loans, guys, are 10% down minimum. You can get a gift for the down payment so long as you're, contributing 5% of your own funds. The guidelines are pretty much the same as any other type of loan. Really, we're going to be looking for, 45% debt to income ratios. Occasionally, we can go up to 49%. You'll have mortgage insurance if you don't put, more than 20% down. So I will say that they're pretty normal. Lots of people are doing them. We do have an influx of second home buyers in Arizona. Okay. So I think I've kind of answered all of the questions, guys, that I have. So I'll kind of just see what you guys have going for the next couple of minutes, and then maybe we'll tune in next week for another live. Do you think I should do another live next week? Can I get your guys' feedback? I will be way better at it next time. I won't be late coming in here stressing out my husband. You're the best, by the way. Seriously. Okay. So did we like this time for live next week? Can I get some feedback on the stream? It's just crickets. Linda, I am only licensed in Arizona, but I do have a wide range of loan officers throughout the country that I could recommend you to if you're not in Arizona. Aaron, DPA programs are still happening due to COVID. Not every lender is doing down payment assistance, so you will have to just shop around and ask somebody who is. Okay. What time's a good time to do a live? So is 6 too late? Or should we do it at 5? 5 might be tricky for me because I still got the day job. I'm still closing loans and people have lots of questions still at that time. Time is good. Yes, to another live. Okay. So here's what I want to do. So I'm going to set up another live. We'll do another weekly live on Wednesday night. Is that okay with you guys? Yes? Okay, you guys are awesome. So we'll do another live next week at 6 p.m. Same time. Please bring your questions. You guys, my team contact information is in all of my videos below. So definitely reach out to us in the meantime if you have questions, you need a referral. And then I will see you guys on Saturday with Javier's live, if he'll still